Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu den Berlinale Pressekonferenzen dieses Tages, an dem nicht nur Filmkünstlerinnen und Filmkünstler zu ihren neuen Werken vor die Öffentlichkeit traten, sondern auch die illustre Jury dieser Berlinale, die genau diese Werke zu beurteilen hat. Als Präsident konnte der amerikanische Regisseur Todd Haynes gewonnen werden, Schöpfer so origineller Filme wie I'm Not There über Bob Dylan. Für Deutschland ist Maria Schrader dabei. Die Schauspielerin hat sich längst auch als Regisseurin international einen Namen gemacht. Ich bin dein Mensch lief 2021 hier mit großem Erfolg auf der Berlinale. Sehen Sie jetzt die Pressekonferenz, auf der sich die diesjährige Bärenjury präsentiert.
Do I need to work? Yeah? This only for translation? Okay. Okay, cool.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We'll get started. Welcome. If photographer, yeah, thanks so much. Photography Corps. Thank you and welcome to the 75th Berlinale. It's happening, and I understand that snow is a good omen. So I'm looking forward to a great festival. I'm Trisha Tuttle. I'm the new director of the Berlinale, and it's my pleasure to introduce our jury today as we open the press conference. Starting from my far right, we have Nabil Ayouch, French-Moroccan writer, director, and producer. Ayouch has been making feature films since 1997. His debut feature, Mektoub, screened in Forum. It was an audience favorite and went on to be nominated as Morocco's Oscar submission that year. His work is screened at film festivals all over the world, and it features beautiful writing and directing, often about characters from the margins of society with sharp political eye. His most recent films include Casablanca Beats in 2021 and last year's Everybody Loves Tuda, which premiered in Cannes. To his left is Rodrigo Moreno, from Argentinian director. Rodrigo's debut feature also screened in Berlinale, El Custodio, and received funding from the World Cinema Fund, and it was part of our competition in 2006. He also won a prize for this film at Sundance Film Festival. Rodrigo returned to competition in 2011 with A Mysterious World, and his stunning The Delinquents screened in Un Certain Regard in 2023. Our jury, oh gosh, my order's wrong, forgive me. Maria Schrader is a director that you know very, very well. She's one of Germany's great directors. Films include 2016's Stefan Zweig, 2020 Orthodox, her series made her the first German to win an Emmy. In 2021, she screened I'm Your Man in the Berlinale competition, and 2022's She Said was a beautiful film about New York Times journalist, important journalism at this time. And Maria also is an actor. Her 1999 Amy and Jaguar opened the festival, and she won a Silver Bear for her work in that film. Our jury president, Mr. President, is Todd Haynes. He was first at the Berlinale. We have a theme here. First at the Berlinale in 1991 with Poison, which won a Teddy Award. Since then, he's made many films and won many awards for a range of features, which are as diverse in style and subject, but also unmistakably hit the work of Todd Haynes. Highlights include Safe in 1995, I'm Not There in 2007, Far From Heaven in 2002, and he, of course, works with many wonderful actors, including Kate Winslet, Kate Blanchett, Natalie Portman, Julianne Moore, Mark Ruffalo, Christian Bale, and Todd, thank you very much for being our jury president this year. Fan Bingbing is to Todd's left, and Bingbing is one of Chinese cinema's brightest and biggest stars. She was awarded the Golden Rooster for her role in Feng Xiaogang's 2016 I'm Not Madame Bovary. And other work includes Li Yu's Lost in Beijing, which screened in the Berlinale competition. And she worked with Chen Kaige on Wu Ji, The Masters of the Sword. She last attended the Berlinale with Green Knight in 2023, and it's a delight to have her back at the festival. Costume designer extraordinaire, Bina Daigeler, is German-born and Madrid-based. She had very unforgettable designs in a number of films like Nico Caro's live-action Mulan, for which she was Oscar-nominated, Todd Field's Tar in 2022, and most recently, stunning work in The Room Next Door with Pedro Almodovar. And last but certainly not least, Amy Nicholson is a film critic, new film critic for the Los Angeles Times. She's host of a podcast, Unspooled, and she's a member of the Los Angeles Film Critics Association and the U.S. National Film Critics Association, Society of Film Critics. Her books include Tom Cruise, Anatomy of an Actor, and Extra Girls. Amy, it's great to have you with us as well. Thank you. So we'll open up. First question. Go ahead.
In Spirits, a Smile and a Storm since my 16th living year. It's great to have you here, and two questions, one to the jury president and the next to Fan Bingbing. Todd, are you curious? You created this wonderful I'm Not There. It's a fictional Bob Dylan biography, and now we have this new biography with Timothy in the leading part. Are you curious? And question to Fan Bingbing. Hope you remember our film interview on Green Night 2 years ago. How is it for you now to be a jury member and evaluate films, because you're an actress in general? Thank you.
I confess I have not yet seen the Dylan film, but I look forward to seeing it. I'm still catching up on movies from this past year. I think if there was one message in my Dylan film, I'm Not There, is that there are many, many Dylans. And there's room for even more.
Great. I remember you. 2 years ago. We were some interview. Hi. 2年前，我带了《绿叶》这部电影来到了柏林电影节。其实我跟柏林电影节的缘分早在2007年，那么那时候是带了一部电影叫《Lost in Beijing》。那这次来做电影节的评委，其实让我觉得非常的开心，然后也非常的惊喜。那么有这么多好看的电影。其实对于演员的表演，其实是我是非常非常期待的，而且这一届的电影都非常的优秀。对于我自己来说，我觉得是一个很好的学习的机会。那也希望看到更有意义的电影，跟更有意义的表演。Thank you.
Hello, good morning. My name is David Martos from Quinótico in Spain. I have two questions for Mr. Haynes and for Mr. Moreno. Opening a festival like this one feels like a dream in the middle of the political landscape we are living. I would like to ask you, Mr. Haynes, how do you feel about everything that's going on in your country? And how do you think that this new presidency is going to affect the filmmaking landscape in your country? And for Mr. Moreno, pretty much the same thing with the president of your country. How do you feel about the situation
Nice coincidence.
of the Argentinian filmmaking community? Yours, of course, in English. If you want to answer in Spanish, Rodrigo, perfect for me. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. We're in a state of particular crisis right now in the United States, but also globally. And I think everyone I know in the United States and friends abroad are witnessing this barrage of actions in the first 3 weeks of the Trump administration with tremendous concern, shock. I think that's been part of the strategy,
Sorge
is
hervor.
to create a sense of
Ich glaube, das gehört
destabilization
zur
and
Taktik.
shock
Ein
among the
Gefühl
people,
von Schock und
so that
Destabilisierung
how
dadurch
we proceed
hervorzurufen.
toward coalescing different forms of resistance
Wir müssen versuchen, uns
are still in the
zusammenzuschließen
works
zu
and
verschiedenen
are still
Formen
being figured out
des
among
Widerstandes, der
Democrats.
Resilienz.
And
Das müssen
I
wir
have no doubt that
als
there'll be many
Demokraten
people who did
irgendwie
in fact vote
entwickeln.
for this president.
Ich
who
bin
will
davon
be
überzeugt,
quickly,
dass viele diesen
disillusioned
Präsidenten gewählt haben
by
und
promises
sehr
that he
schnell
made about
enttäuscht
economic
werden,
stability
gerade in Bezug
in
auf
the
seine
United
großen
States.
Versprechungen zur Wirtschaftslage in
how
den USA.
This return of this Trump presidency will affect
Wie diese
filmmaking
zweite
is a
Präsidentschaft
real question hanging
von
over
Donald
all
Trump
American filmmakers.
die
And
Filmbranche
I
in
think it's a
den
question
USA
that extends
beeinflussen wird,
beyond
hängt
the world
auch
of
ganz
filmmaking. And clearly as
sich
possible.
äußert zu
And I
den
think that
politischen
remains to be
Ereignissen
seen.
rundherum.
And I think always
Also klar,
with filmmaking in
aber auch
particular, the
kreativ,
financing question
fantasievoll.
is complicated.
Eine
So it's also about
komplizierte
the kind of
Frage, mit der
financiers
wir
who are
uns
willing
alle
to take
befassen müssen,
risks
vor allem, weil es ja auch um die
and willing to
Finanzen
support
geht.
strong voices.
Wir möchten
And
unbedingt
I think that
starke
exists,
Stimmen
but again,
fördern,
it takes
unterstützen.
examples
Es gibt sie,
and
aber wir
and
brauchen
positive
auch
outcomes,
Beispiele
I think, to
und
fortify
positive
those kinds of
Ergebnisse,
risks that people may want to take.
die Menschen zu ermutigen.
Well, it's as you asked the same question for both of us. I
Ja,
could
Sie haben uns beiden ja
say more or less the same that
die gleiche
Todd,
Frage
because
gestellt.
the
Ich
situation
könnte
in
mich
Argentina,
fast
of course, it's
genauso
just
äußern wie
it's
Todd.
1 year.
Die Lage in
We've been
ist
having
ja
this
auch relativ neu.
government
Seit einem Jahr haben wir
with
diese
a crazy
Regierung
guy,
mit
total
dem
fascist,
Verrückten,
pronouncing
dem Faschisten an
all
der Spitze,
every day
der sich
against
ebenfalls tagtäglich äußert,
gays, against scientists,
gegen
against
Schwule,
educators,
gegen
against
Naturwissenschaftler,
filmmakers, artists.
gegen Lehrer
So
und
it's a nightmare
Dozenten.
for
Also
us.
ein echter Albtraum für uns.
But there's another thing regarding,
Aber
particularly with
es gibt noch
the film
etwas,
industry, is that
das speziell
we
uns
had
in der Filmbranche trifft.
till last year for our last
Zum vergangenen Jahr
30 years
hatten wir
a
doch
very strong film law
fast 30
that
Jahre
allowed
lang
us to make
ein
films
sehr gutes Filmgesetz,
very similar to the
Filmrecht,
French
das es
system.
uns ermöglichte, Filme zu machen,
So
ähnlich wie im
that means that
französischen
we have a national film institute
Also wir hatten ein
financed by a tax
Filminstitut,
that pays
finanziert
the
aus
spectators pays every
Steuergeldern,
time they go to the cinema and the
sodass die
television
Leute, die ins
also.
Kino gehen und auch
So
das
it's apart from
jedes Mal
the
quasi
national budget.
Beiträge leisten. Teil
And that
des
allows us to
Staatshaushaltes.
make
Das hat es uns bisher
our
ermöglicht,
beautiful cinematography
doch sehr
from
schöne
Argentina
Filme zu
during
machen. Es gibt eine
of
sehr
all the last
schöne
20 years where
Film-
the
und
renovation and new
Kinowelt
generation made.
Argentinien seit
But
mindestens
now
20
everything is
Jahren. Alles,
was
nach der
defunded,
Erneuerung durch die junge
so
Generation.
this year
Aber
there
diese
was
Finanzierungsmethode
zero
wird nun
films
zu Ende
produced
gehen.
Es
ist also im
by the
vergangenen
National Film
Jahr
Institute, which is a
vom
tragedy
Filminstitut
for us, of
kein
course.
einziger Film
But
gemacht worden. Null. Eine
we will
echte Tragödie
keep on making
für uns.
films
Aber wir werden
anyway with
weiter
cell phones, with
Filme
whatever.
machen,
The main problem is the
versuchen,
workers,
uns selbst zu
the old
finanzieren.
people,
Aber das
the
Problem ist,
poor
dass
people,
die
which is
Arbeiter und Arbeiterinnen,
increasing
die Alten,
every day
die
in
Armen,
Argentina. That's the
die
real problem we have
zahlenmäßig
now with this
tagtäglich
kind of
zunehmen in
policies
Argentinien,
and
die allergrößte
an
Sorge
economical
machen als
situation,
Folge
yes.
dieser schrecklichen Politik, diese Wirtschaftslage.
Hello, question here from Brazil, Rodrigo Fonseca, Correio da Manhã, to Mr. Todd Haynes. When your first films came out, you became labeled as a symbol of indie cinema, of what the independent cinema has of its strongest expression. What is the meaning of indie cinema nowadays? What it represents to be independent in an America that has Donald Trump as a president?
Independent, unabhängig zu sein, jetzt mit Donald Trump zum
You know,
zweiten Mal als Präsident.
the era that I came of age
Wissen Sie,
as a filmmaker and the film that I first brought
in
to
der
the
Zeit,
Berlinale,
als ich meine ersten Filme
that came
machte
out of
und
that
auch
time
mit
was
dem
Poison,
ersten Film von
but
damals,
it was
Poison,
the era
zur
of the
Berlinale
AIDS
kam,
epidemic. And there
war
was a
das die
tremendous
Zeit
amount
der
of
AIDS
activity, political activity and
Epidemie.
resistance on the
Es gab
streets.
sehr viel politischen Widerstand auf den
And it was out
Straßen,
of that
einen
concerted
Kampf.
effort made by
Wir haben uns
the
damals
victims who were
zusammenschließen
suffering
müssen.
from the
Die
illness
Opfer haben sich zusammengeschlossen,
to
die
force the
unter
government
AIDS
and
litten,
force
um die
the
Regierung
institutions
zu
of medicine
zwingen,
and health
auch alle
to
Institutionen,
follow their lead.
Gesundheitsämter, Gesundheitsministerien,
And that, as somebody
endlich
in their
etwas zu
20s
tun.
who was surrounded by this kind of public
Und wenn
health
man da
catastrophe
so in den
and watching every
20ern ist und
other
diese
person you
öffentliche
know die
Katastrophe
of this incredibly
des
aggressive
Gesundheitswesens
illness,
miterlebt, wo so viele
it produced
unzählige
that
Menschen
kind of
gestorben
political
sind,
efficacy
haben wir
and
ebenfalls eine
a
ganz
creative component
starke politische Kraft
where
entwickelt. Und da gibt es
filmmakers
Komponenten,
responded to what was happening in all
auch
kinds
für
of different
Filmemacher
ways.
damals,
But what it produced and
darauf
what was
zu
termed at the
reagieren.
time the new queer cinema.
Das, was
And I was
damals
very proud to be
entwickelt
part
und
of that
gedreht wurde, war
mantle
das
of
neue
filmmakers.
Queer Cinema.
Because the
Und
films were
dazu
not
gehöre
just
ich.
challenging
Denn die
the
Filme
system
waren nicht einfach nur
in content.
schwierig in so einem
They were also
System.
challenging traditional
Sie
forms of
forderten das
storytelling
ganze System
in
heraus,
style
auch
and
die
form.
traditionelle
And so
Art
it
und
felt
Weise
like
des Storytellings,
the best
den
kind of
traditionellen
creative
Stil.
response
Es war
to a
eigentlich die
political
optimale
crisis.
kreative Antwort auf eine politische Krise.
And we learned that there was a market for these films.
Natürlich
And so
gemerkt,
these films got shown.
lernen dürfen, dass es für solche
It was a
Filme
time
einen
where the
Markt
indie
gab.
film culture,
Gibt.
particularly in the East Coast
Also
of
die
the US, was very
Filmkultur von der
robust.
Ostküste
And
der
we felt
USA
like
war
there
äußerst
was a
robust.
strong relationship between
Durften wir
audiences and
feststellen,
filmmakers.
es gab eine ganz enge Beziehung
And that
zwischen dem
independent film
Publikum
culture
und den
only continued to
Filmemachern,
grow and become
Regisseuren,
more
Schauspielern
successful. So
etc.
when
Und das hat sich
Quentin Tarantino
Denken
entered
Sie
the scene
nur
and had
an Quentin
remarkable
Tarantino
successes with his
mit
film.
seinen
All of a sudden, the money that was
Riesenerfolgen.
generated
Plötzlich konnte
from
Geld
Pulp Fiction,
verdient
for
werden
instance,
durch
dwarfed the
Pulp-Fiktion.
kinds of money that other independent films were making. And you saw
Zusätzlich zu dem,
players
was
in
die
that
anderen
system like Harvey
Independent
Weinstein,
Filmemacher
people really trying to
generieren konnten. Die
use
Leute haben
the new
wirklich
energy that
mit
was
Erfolg
associated with
versucht, die
independent
neue
film.
Energie
And,
auszubauen.
and it had
Im
positive
Rahmen
and
des
negative results.
Independent-Films und durch
And I
enge
think that continues to
Zusammenarbeit. Wir
this
hatten
day.
großartige
And that
Ergebnisse
every
und ich glaube, das
film
setzt
that
sich
is
doch
not
bis
part of a
heute fort.
franchise, piece
Jeder
of content,
Film,
or
der
a
nicht
Marvel
zum
film, or
Franchise
a
gehört,
major studio
zu
film,
Marvel oder größeren
people are
Studios,
figuring
auch
out
vom
different
Content her.
forms of financing and different ways
diesen
of
anderen Sachen
speaking out.
tüfteln
Also,
die
digital
Leute doch
technology
andere
has
neue,
made film less
Möglichkeiten
expensive.
der Finanzierung aus.
And
Und
a lot
dank
of
die
people can make films like
Digitaltechnologie,
Sean Baker
dadurch
beginning to
ist
make
es
films on
billiger
his phone.
geworden. Sean
You know,
Baker
there
zum
were
Beispiel.
a whole new range of possibilities
ganz
opened
neue
up as a
Palette
result.
von
And I think we'll
Möglichkeiten
always continue
ist
to
das
find
Ergebnis,
those
die sich
avenues
erfreulicherweise
to
entwickelt hat.
get
Und ich
voices
bin
that
ganz
need to be
zuversichtlich,
heard
dass wir
out
auch
there.
in Zukunft solche Stimmen finden werden, die sich Gehör
Hi,
verschaffen
this is
können.
Lisa Foster for the press agency
Lisa
DPA, and I have a
Foster.
question for Maria Schrader and to
Eine
Todd
Frage
Haynes.
an Sie, Maria
I was wondering, what
Schrader,
are
und
your
auch an
hopes
Sie,
for
Todd
this year's
Haynes.
festival
Frage,
after
was
the
sind Ihre
escalated
Hoffnungen,
debate
Wünsche
of last year? Are you afraid that
für
something
diese
like this
Berlinale
will
nach
happen
dem
again and
Skandal
overshadow the
letztes Jahr?
program maybe? And do you
Es
hope
gibt
for
ja doch
fewer
Dinge, Ereignisse,
political debates this
Situationen,
year?
Politik, die die Berlinale überschatten
Me
könnten.
first.
You go.
Soll ich anfangen?
Take it away.
Ja, los.
So generally, I think fear is not a
Also
good
ganz generell halte ich Angst,
accompanying thing.
Furcht nicht
And,
für einen guten Begleiter.
I don't want to fear anything.
Ich möchte
I
vor
want to
nichts
celebrate
Angst haben. Ich möchte feiern.
these particular spaces,
Und vor allem
which are
diese
spaces
ganz
for
speziellen Räume
culture
feiern.
and the
Räume
imaginary
für
world.
Kultur und für
The imaginary
Fantasie.
domain, maybe you
Das
can call it, and I think
Imaginäre, eine
the wonderful thing
imaginäre
about these
Domäne könnte man
spaces
das nennen. Das
are
sind doch
that there
ganz
are
tolle
rooms
Räume und besonders
where a question can be asked,
wunderbar ist, dass man in
controversy
solchen
can
Räumen
start.
Fragen
We don't
stellen
need
kann
to
und darf.
come up
Kontroversen
with
dürfen sich entwickeln und
blunt
ausgetragen werden.
answers. We can ask questions.
Wir brauchen keine platten Antworten zu geben. Wir dürfen Fragen stellen.
I am just
Ich bin
so honored and so happy, and I think it's
so erfreut und fühle mich so geehrt,
we
hier
cannot
zu
worship
sein.
enough
Ich finde,
that people,
wir
and it will
müssen
be another
einfach
time, 100,000 people
anerkennen,
leave their
ehren,
house
dass
with
Tausende,
a willingness
Hunderttausende tatsächlich
to
aus dem Haus
let
gehen,
themselves be
mit dem
captivated
festen
by
Willen,
stories, by
durchzuhalten,
other people's
sich
lives.
von Stories gefangen nehmen zu
I
lassen,
think that is a
die das Leben
generally
anderer Menschen
a
betreffen,
productive
das
and
ist doch eine tolle
peacemaking
Sache, sehr
and
produktiv und auch
and
förderlich
valuable
für den
process.
Frieden. Ein sehr wertvoller Prozess, würde ich sagen.
Yeah, this is. I think what I do think is that
ich meine
the more
und denke
the more
wirklich,
binary our thinking, the more extreme our
je
thinking, our
binärer
discussions become, the more we ultimately head towards escalation. And that is basically also what happened last year. And I think we are violating ourselves because every single individual is a complex person with a lot of shades of colors between just black and white. And we all are craving for peace and freedom. And I think the culture and the imaginary world we are celebrating for the next 10 days are providing these spaces which we cannot value enough because they are reducing, and specifically in Berlin. And people coming together and submitting to a mutual experience are coming with the willingness to develop, to learn, and to see differences and differentiations. So this is a political process, and that's what the beautiful political aspect of a film festival like this is, in my opinion.
There's nothing I can really add to what Maria said. I completely share her optimistic feeling and defiance in embracing this festival, this moment that all of us have the privilege of partaking in, a look at what's happening in cinema around the world at this moment. And coming from different places and having our own different lives and experiences as filmmakers and film artists also brings that kind of diversity together into a concentration of time and openness. So we've already begun the process of watching movies together yesterday. This is going to be a superb experience, I think, for all of us, a really, really great group of people. That's not to say that this festival has always had a strength of conviction and an openness to challenging and political discourse, and bringing that into the filmmaking and into the process of people coming together and taking note of what's happening in the world. And what's happening in the world right now has put an extra urgency to all of that. And that's something this festival in this city, which has withstood more challenges and an unbelievable history that it has recuperated from time and again. That puts the site that we are in this particular festival in Berlin, really in the crosshairs of the moment that we're in, but that we are looking at it from a cultural perspective.
Right.
Hello, this is Katrina Steiner from German newspaper Bild. I have a question for Ms. Schrader, Ms. Tuttle. We have a general election coming up in 10 days, and the far right is going to make a big splash, probably here in Germany. How does this development here and all over Europe affect you, both as artists and as people?
Well, I think I'm affected by this like everyone else. We don't know the outcome yet. And sometimes, this is a personal thing, sometimes I feel it's hard to, for an artist, specifically for a to not immediately be able to react onto something. You know, I can react on something like as a person. I can go out on the street. I can articulate myself. I can demonstrate. But it affects also my work. I read a lot of things. I have a lot of thoughts, and I sleep over it. And I think, is this really relevant right now? So it elevates stakes for, you know, what are the stories which are needed to be told right now.
And just really briefly, because I think that everything that each of our filmmakers and jurists have said about the festival and what we hope for the festival underlines how much of a rejection and an act of resistance a festival like this is to all of the ideas, perverse ideas that many far-right parties across the whole world and across Europe are spreading. This is a space where we want to come together and listen to each other and communicate through cinema, and we all celebrate and value very deeply the sort of pluralistic ideas that are behind big major international film festivals. So I think the very fact we're all here is a resistance, and it's a really important one.
My name is Mahari Sagid, African Refugee News. I have a question for Mr. Nabil. Mr. Nabil, you are today in the spotlight for all the Arab-speaking world and also for Africa, because Morocco is in Africa too. So can you tell us how is your life in Morocco as a director, filmmaker? Do you have the same problems we have in Africa, or is it different? Then I would like this two ladies, if you can say something about your experience here.
Well, the good thing in Morocco is that we don't have a president, we have a king. And believe me, it changes everything, especially because it's a good king. No, we're facing almost the same topics, problems, dreams, hopes than every other directors all over the world. Sometimes people think that we artists live in a bubble. We don't live in a bubble. We don't have privileges. We take risks every day. And I think that, facing some people like the one we were talking about in the US right now, thinking that it can buy the whole world. It can buy Gaza, it can buy Greenland, it can buy Panama. We have to be strong everywhere in the world, including in Africa, because we can be the next ones. And I think that people today want to hear strong voices from us, because sometimes from the politics they don't have enough strong voices right now. So we have to be radical, we have to be strong in our choices, in our movies. And a place like this festival, for us, is a great place to get together, to watch movies, to open windows from all over the world, and discuss. We have a great jury this year, and discuss what the proposals that all the directors from all over the world who got into a kind of resistance, that's the word, are proposing us.
Oh, it has. I just want to echo the words that Nabil said. It's such an honor for all of us on this jury to come together, representing different countries, different continents, in the service of finding beautiful works of art that speak to people. We're just so glad to be here in this moment. And, you know, I just want to say on, I guess, behalf of my country, like, I think Americans hear all the time that we are a divided country. I feel like so many people in my country agree on just wanting to feel security, you know, security for healthcare, security for housing, security that their work has value, and security that their lives have dignity. And I think most Americans do agree on these things. And I believe that art is one place in which people can come together, and I would like to see like the people of my country realize that they should unite against those people who are trying to divide us in America. I feel like there's strength. And I love my country very much.
Final question.
Jens Hölzig, MDR Television and First German Television. One question to Maria and two shorts to Trisha. Maria, was ist aufregender, schöner für Sie, mit einem Film in die Preisverleihung reinzugehen oder selber über Preise zu entscheiden? Und Trisha, Tom Tückmer said in these days, you are a gift for Berlin. What is Berlin? What is the festival for you? And what was your first sentence in German?
Start.
Okay, first I want to align myself with Tom Tykwer. I think Trisha is a gift for Germany and for this festival. Being here as a filmmaker and presenting, or as an actor presenting your own work, is adrenaline, is very focused on this premiere. It's you do interviews all day long, and being in the jury is still being in the same place, but it's almost the opposite. It's almost, you spread your attention as wide as you can, and probably apart from having the privilege to see all these films, actually being the first audience to see films. We already watched films yesterday. This is a great privilege. Beyond that, I think it's also a process of community building. We will get to know each other so well during these next upcoming 10 days, but it's not only us. Yesterday night we met all the other jury members, and I hope we'll walk across. And so generally, I think the physical presence of other people, the meetings, the being in the audience, we will have some screenings, we'll also attend with the audience. I'm very much looking forward to that. And yes, my life is so dominated by meetings via Zoom. The whole She Said was prepared, via Zoom. I never met people, in person until I got there. And this has been going on till today, so I cannot be happier to be in a room with you today and, being physically present during these next 10 days.
Great, and I'll keep mine brief, and I'll just say that my first word was gemütlich, which I really love. I love that word. I mean, and in some ways it also seems a little, and thank you so much to Tom. I mean, I share, it's not just that we're both called TT, that we connected. I think he's a really wonderful filmmaker and human being. And I think gemütlich also, I think the kind of warmth that I always felt from this festival when I came as a young professional is really inclusive. Everybody gets invited to the parties. Everybody got into the screenings. That sense of community that you build. And it's not a bubble. It's hopefully, we're not locking out the outside world. We're inviting people to come into this space and share cinema with us. And we hope, I want to echo what Maria said about conversations are complex. And if we stop talking to each other and we stop talking to each other around cinema, that's when things are really scary. So I think we shouldn't be scared of conversation. We shouldn't be scared of the fact that the world is a troubled place, and some of that is going to come out in the conversations we have. But I also hope, and I feel from our jury, that we're going to do it with a lot of love and a lot of care. So thank you guys very much for being my first jury.
Thank you.
Is that it? Yeah, cool. That it? All right.
Let's do it? Yeah, I think that.